It seems to me, above all, necessary to declare here who and what I am. Ecce Homo is the last book Nietzsche wrote. It followed a period of sustained productivity in the year 1888, during which he wrote four works: The Case of Wagner, Twilight of the Idols, The Antichrist, and Ecce Homo. Unique among Nietzsche's works, this book is an autobiography, but not in the conventional sense. Just how unconventional is the book? Let's take a look at the chapter titles. Why I am so wise, why I am so clever, why I write such good books, why I am a destiny. What is going on in this work? That will be the chief question we're asking ourselves in this series. So strap in and enjoy the ride. It's a wild one. To be notified when other parts come out, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell button. First of all, we need to talk about the title. Nietzsche immediately invokes Christian imagery just like he did with the Antichrist. Ecce Homo, which is Latin for behold the man, is a famous phrase uttered by Pontius Pilate during the trial of Jesus. The battered and tortured Jesus, wearing the crown of thorns, is brought before the crowd. Pilate exclaims, "Behold the man," and the crowd is relentless. They want Jesus crucified. There's a lot of theological speculation regarding the phrase. What did Pilate really mean by it? What is the significance of the phrase for the gospel in its entirety? One interpretation holds that it's meant to invoke sympathy from the crowd. Before them stands a man, bloody and beaten. A man, not a king, not a god, not the son of a god. Just a man in all his humility and vulnerability. We might say that Nietzsche wants to invoke the same layer of meaning by naming his autobiography Ecce Homo. The man in question, of course, would be Nietzsche himself. But there's a deep sense of irony in the title. Not only did we just look at the chapter titles, which are anything but vulnerable and humble, but there is also the profound sense of irony in the fact that Nietzsche explicitly equates himself with Jesus in the title of this work, while he wrote a book called The Antichrist right before this one. So, with just the title, Nietzsche has set the tone for the rest of the book. We should be prepared for irony. Yet, we can also approach the title from another angle. What if the Ecce Homo reference isn't simply about Nietzsche ironically equating himself with Jesus, but about Nietzsche trying to say to the world, look at me, here is a man who will be just as important to world history as Jesus Christ was? Now it gets interesting. Now the hyperbolic chapter titles make sense in an unironic way. And as we will see when we go deeper into the contents of the book, there just might be something to this unironic interpretation. This is the first major question that surrounds the work. Just how serious and sincere is Nietzsche really? And in which measure is he just joking or being ironic or being provocative? Or is the hyperbolic style so characteristic of his late work an early symptom of his coming mental collapse? There are arguments to be made for both interpretations. On the one hand, Nietzsche must have known that it's hard to take seriously a chapter titled Why I Write Such Good Books. It could be a regular example of irony, but he could also be parodying the autobiographical style of the 19th century, in which many self proclaimed geniuses wrote very approvingly of themselves in their own autobiographies. Chief among them would be Richard Wagner, whose multi volume work about himself is full of praise for himself. And Nietzsche, as proofreader of the work, would be the very first person in the world to have read it and be familiar with it. On the other hand, Nietzsche is brutally honest in this book, especially concerning his own ill health. Why should we think the positive things he says about himself are ironic, while the negative things are sincere? In the very first paragraph of the book, Nietzsche tells us about his ill health, how migraines bother him, how he sometimes loses his eyesight to the point of blindness. He wants us to know how sick, how decadent he is. Having admitted all this, do I need to say that I am experienced in questions of decadence? In fact, Nietzsche claims his own decadence, his own sickness, is precisely what allowed his genius in the first place. The positive claims and the negative claims come together to form one argument. To look upon healthier concepts and values from the standpoint of the sick, and conversely to look down upon the secret work of the instincts of decadence from the standpoint of him who is laden and self reliant with the richness of life. This has been my longest exercise, my principal experience. If in anything at all, it was in this that I became a master, Today, my hand knows the trick. I now have the knack of reversing perspectives. The first reason, perhaps, why a transvaluation of all values has been possible to me alone. If Nietzsche's self admitted decadence is posited in earnest, while his self proclaimed genius is only meant to be ironic, would the above passage be possible? Would it even make sense? As we continue our analysis of the book, try to keep in mind this ongoing tension on the irony or sincerity of this work in the back of your head. But don't decide on your perspective just yet. We still have long ways to go. We still have to discuss Nietzsche's goal with this book. It's not just about him writing his own biography, there's much more to it. Just like with the previous discussion on the two words that constitute the title of the work, when we open Pandora's box of trying to figure out what Nietzsche is trying to accomplish with this book, we will find ourselves exploring multiple layers of meaning. We'll tackle those layers in the next part of this series. To keep you occupied in the meantime, you can watch our analysis of Twilight of the Idols and the Antichrist. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.